$91.5 billion. Can anybody guess what this amount is spent on each year? Video games. Currently, over the past year, Americans alone spent $91.5 billion on video games and accessories. 68% out of every American household plays video games. 40% of those users are all women. The reason that the video game industry is important to me is because I would like to one day program video games. That is my dream job. I just recently found out Wake Tech actually offers it, so I may be saying goodbye to Durham Tech. In this presentation, I'm going to give you the past, the present, and what most likely the future is going to be in the video gaming industry. The past, Oxford Dictionary describes video games as any game that can be electronically manipulated on a computer screen or any screen. Today, video games are played on tablets, PCs, smartphones, e-readers, anything that has a processing chip and a screen that can actually produce a game. Almost everybody in America or overseas, anybody who has a cell phone probably has some kind of game on their phone. It affects every one of us in some way, whether we have children or personally have a game on our phone. I want you to go Stop. Okay. In the beginning, video games were actually, the very first video game was actually created in 1970. It was a game called Computer Space, which you flew a little spaceship around and shot little thick blocks out of the sky. Video gaming actually didn't hit its stride until 1971 when the Atari was initially created by the same guys, Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney, who actually created the Atari and created Pong. They're the ones who actually made the first game, Computer Space. There's a guy named Stephen Kent who wrote a book called The Ultimate History of Video Games from Pong to Pokemon. And in the book, he actually states that from the arcade to the television and from the PC to any handheld device, video games have entranced kids at heart for over 30 years. This was written back in 2001, so the actual estimate now would be 44 years. Don't seem like it's actually been out that long, but they have. From the start of the gaming industry, billions of dollars have been spent has been spent so we are able to enjoy the newest and best forms of gaming. From the Atari to the original Nintendo to the Wii U, and from the original PlayStation to what we have now with the PS4. The gaming industry is not going to die, it'll continue to grow. One of the most current upgrades to the video game industry is the option of virtual reality. We actually have, for like the PlayStation, we have the PlayStation Eye. The Wii, you actually can bowl and play all these games. It's a form of virtual reality. It's actually becoming more and more popular, and with the trend, companies are starting to try and cash in. An estimate from Gaudiosi, I don't know how you say that, consumers will spend more than $5.1 billion this year on virtual reality. Another trend is going to be the fact of cross-platform compatibility, which as of March 14th, Microsoft and Sony have actually started talking about users being able to play Xbox games on the PS4 and vice versa, which that might actually be kind of interesting. We'll have to see. There's actually pros and cons to the video gaming industry. The biggest pro that I was able to find is a lady named Janet Dunlap wrote an article called The Video Game Industry Analyzing and the Representation of Gender and Race. She says that first, video games are an important introduction to the world of computer technology. Becoming familiar with and comfortable with and enjoying video games and computers may help girls develop a career in technology, a field in which women are very underrepresented. Video game is not all bad. It also states that I already said it. One of the biggest cons about video games is the fact that violence and sex sells. When they're creating new video games, they take that into effect. Most games you see nowadays also plays a major form in racism and gender discrimination. Whether it be a black individual being a form of a gang member or a thug in games such as Saints Row, Grand Theft Auto. The reality of these games is what they're portraying to these kids is what kids are thinking is real life, and it's not the case. As far as women go in video games, such as the ones I already suggested, most of the women in Saints Row and Grand Theft Auto are either standing on the corner or they're groupies. The only female role model that the video game industry has put out is Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. And the only reason that that's the case is because of the skimpy clothes she wears, and they make her look as a sexist role model. Now that I've covered the actual history, future, and the pros and cons that come with the video games, I'd like to leave you with one last figure or statistic. $1.93 trillion is what the total global entertainment and gaming or media market is currently valued at. 52% of all gaming at the present moment is actually done on the PC. The video gaming industry is only going to continue to grow, and we, as most of us as consumers, will continue to spend the money that we have to spend to have the best product available.